We're starting to see more racers make their way to our favorite hybrid console. Today, AK Raming is going to talk about the better late than never version of V-Rally 4 for Nintendo Switch. Let's jump in.
Long has it been since the days of Nintendo systems being a shoo-in for multi-platform support. As a result, many genres have become rarities on Nintendo's hardware. This is especially true for racing sims. Minus a handful of Wii titles, there really hasn't been anything of much value since the GameCube era. But finally, that's changed. The folks over at the development studio of Kylotonn have somehow managed to deliver V-Rally 4 on the Switch. While it took a few extra months to release, this has turned out to be a feature-for-feature port that's exceeded my expectations. I already took an extensive look at V-Rally 4 on PC when it first released back in September. As a result, I was pleasantly surprised when I booted up the Switch version to find everything remained intact. V-Rally 4 includes 5 different racing disciplines: Rally, V-Rally Cross, Buggy, Extreme Kana, and Hill Climb. Rally races are time trials along cramped, winding, mostly off-road tracks. V-Rally Cross races are on closed circuits with a mixture of off-road and paved sections. Buggy races are also on closed circuits and are the toughest out of the bunch due to their harsh track design. Extreme Kana races will have you drifting around tight corners and roundabouts in closed tracks that are built to test cornering abilities. Finally, Hill Climb offers the most extreme sense of speed as you pilot a souped-up race car along twisting mountain pathways at high altitudes. Each of these disciplines offers a unique racing experience. The driving feels very different not only due to the unique vehicles that belong to each category, but also due to the terrain changes. Driving on gravel or snow is far more difficult than tarmac, and that effect has been preserved here in the Switch version. But there's a big catch. The Switch's controllers were definitely not designed for this. Simplistic arcade racers are built around the whole mechanic of pressing gas to go fast. The Joy-Con and Pro Controller handle that very well, but in a realistic racer like this, they're more of a liability. This is due to the lack of analog triggers. V-Rally 4 is not an easy game by any means, and will basically force you to learn how to drive as cautiously and nimbly as possible. Yet, that's pretty much impossible to do with the digital triggers that the Switch has. As a result, it's been a struggle to find a good balance. The best method seems to be tapping the triggers to simulate gradual inputs. Sometimes, even simply letting go of the gas for several seconds has worked. This doesn't feel anywhere near as natural as what I'm used to on PC by using the analog triggers of an Xbox One controller, but that's no fault of the game itself. Still, this has led to many frustrating situations, leading me to become very well acquainted with the restart button. Really, it's made me realize how great the rewind feature is in other racing games, and I wish one was present here. What's truly frustrating about messing up is that each race affects your bank account. Every bump and scratch adds to your maintenance bill at the end of every race. So, placing last or low in position with heavy damage can sometimes result in you losing money at the end of a race. This is a cutthroat experience that's exacerbated by the shortcomings of the Switch's controllers, but this is just something that you'll have to learn to live with here with V-Rally 4 on Switch. Just like with the controls, Kylotonn has had to make some sacrifices to the presentation. In docked mode, V-Rally 4 doesn't look half bad. Unsurprisingly, it's a lot grainier than the PC version, and special visual effects like intense lighting have been very simplified, yet environments and car models still look pretty good. The biggest drawback is what I call an LOD sphere. As you drive, shadows and objects will be drawn in just a few feet ahead of you, forming what looks like a sphere. It's a bit jarring at first, but gradually you get used to it. Handheld mode is a whole other story though. The resolution is definitely below 720p in the majority of areas, thus resulting in a very blurry image. Many scenery objects and shadows are also omitted. This is especially apparent on more densely populated tracks such as the Buggy and V-Rally Cross tracks. Still, the most important thing is that the frame rate manages to hold up regardless of whether you're playing in docked or handheld mode. It usually stays within the 30 FPS range, but can sometimes drop into the 20s on more complex tracks, particularly in the buggy races. But all of this is to be expected, since the Switch is not anywhere near as powerful as the other consoles, or even a modest gaming PC. I'm just happy that this is still the same game as what's on those other platforms, even if it doesn't look as good. Despite the sacrifices, V-Rally 4 is still the most detailed racing game on Switch for the time being. It's difficult, but it's still a lot of fun to play. With Grid also on the way, perhaps the racing sim genre is making a real return to Nintendo platforms, and I look forward to seeing what other developers bring to the table.